Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral service for Gerald, or Jerry Allen Gross. Rabbi Jeffrey Weil and Cantor David Gale from Ezra Habonim, the Niles Township Jewish Congregation, will be officiating. We welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream. And just as a last and gentle reminder, we ask everyone to please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. This time, I'd like to ask those of you, really the whole family in the first row, to please rise as the clergy approach to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya, tearing of the ribbon and the cloth.
We perform the act of Kriya. Kriya means tearing, and as I explained to the family in the Bible, when something calamitous would happen, or shocking, or very sad would happen to in their lives, the ancient Israelites, they would often tear their garments, exposing, in a sense, their vulnerable hearts, their woundedness. And that's what we do at these times. We tear our garments, in some cases tear a ribbon, and even the sound of the tearing is a very visceral kind of experience and feeling of the tear and the rupture in our lives. Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, mi mini bal emot lachen Samach libi v'gel kvodi af sori yishkon levetach. From the 16th Psalm, I have set the eternal God always before me. God is at my right side, and I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult, and my being is secure. My soul rejoices. For you, O God, will not abandon me, nor let your faithful one see destruction. You show me the Orach Chaim, the true good path of life, and your presence brings fullness of joy, and enduring happiness is your gift. This is a time in our calendar of happiness, of joy. This is the week of Sukkot, and we gather here today not in happiness during this happy week, but in sadness for the loss of Jerry Gross. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach be'atzat risha'im u'v'derech chata'im lo amad u'v'moshav leitzim lo yashav ki b'torat Adonai cheftzo u'v'torato yehaget yomam v'layla. Happy are those who have not followed the counsel of the wicked, or taken the path of sinners, or joined the company of the insolent. Rather, a holy teaching, the teaching of the Lord, is their delight, and they abide by that teaching and stick with that teaching all the days of their lives. They are like a tree planted by streams of water, that yields its fruit in season. Its foliage never fades. V'chol asher yaseh yatzliach, and all its fruit always flourishes. At times like these sad times, we turn to the 23rd Psalm in particular, a beautiful psalm. You have it in your handouts in English. We will read it in English, and then my colleague, Cantor Daniel Gale, will chant it in Hebrew. The 23rd Psalm, we read together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Cantor Gale.
Psalm 23. Mizmor David, Adonai roi lo echsor, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yanaleni. Nafshi yishovev, yonecheni v'magle tzedek, leman shemo. Gam ki elech, Gam ki elech begeit zalmavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi. Shivdecha lemantecha, hema yenachamoni, taharoch lefanav, shulechan neged tzorerai, dishanta vashemen roshi, kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed, ach tov v'chesed yildefoni, kol yemei chayai. V'shavti beveit Adonai, liorech yamim.
During the season, actually at this upcoming Shabbat and Shmini Atzeret services, we'll read the book of Kohelet, or Ecclesiastes. The third chapter of that book, which is well known, presents this idea that everything in life is unfolding as it should. Like there's a time and a purpose for everything. It's sort of a passive approach to life, like just sort of allowing things, or actually understanding with a certain equanimity that things just will occur the way they occur. And that's a difficult thing to accept, maybe particularly for us Jews feeling like we don't always have control, but certainly our tradition nudges us and guides us in that direction, that some things we are not in control of. And in every life, there are things that we experience that we wish were different, and yet there's a time for all of it. So says, according to tradition, King Solomon in Ecclesiastes, or Kohelet. L'kol zman ve'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim, et laledet ve'et lamut, et lata'at ve'et la'kor natua, et lifrot ve'et livnot, et livkot ve'et lishchok, et tzvod ve'et rakod. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time when we gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear, a time to sow, and a time for silence, and a time to speak. And so this is an appropriate time to speak words in memory of and honor of Jerry Gross. As I mentioned before, we are in the middle of, now approaching the end of the Zman Simchatenu, the season or the time of our joy, time of our happiness, and that's Sukkot. And Sukkot celebrates joyfully life's abundance, and it bids us, really, it commands us to be grateful for the many gifts that we receive from God, the gifts that sustain us, of all sorts, actually. But this is not a Zman Simcha, a time of joy and happiness right now for you. For we gather now to be sad, really, not to be joyful and to celebrate, but to mourn. But Sukkot also asks us to face the transitory nature of our lives, that everything is fleeting in this world. The Sukkot themselves, the booths that we erect themselves, they represent that. They are fragile, fleeting structures, and they're here for a little while, and then they're gone. Such is life on earth, really. And we acutely feel that fragility at this moment. For Jerry Gross's life, his earthly existence has reached its conclusion. For Jerry, we have experienced this sense of fragility before. In years past, he has experienced health challenges. He has been vulnerable. Amazingly, as so many of us know, despite the vulnerability and at times the weakness, the illnesses, he proved himself so strong, so durable in the face of fragility. And so in the midst of this time of sadness, we honor his strength. And amid the grief, we are so grateful for his life and for the love in his life, the love that he received in abundance from all of you, and the love that he shared in his quiet manner with you. Jerry, Chicago-born, oldest child of Evelyn and Saul, brother to Diane. The family lived in Garfield Park. Their neighborhood, and particularly their building, was a real community, as Diane mentioned, a multi-ethnic family. And some of the friends that Jerry made and cultivated, those friendships during those years, like Marty and Beverly, and also cousin Jeff, and of course Diane too, these were among the very few people throughout his life with which this taciturn man would often open up and become more animated and talkative. Jerry graduated from high school, and he spent some time at the University of Illinois downstate, but he returned, and after working for a little bit, he enlisted. And from 1963 to 1967, he served in Thailand as a radar technician for bomber planes. and among his tasks was the loading of Agent Orange onto those planes. Agent Orange. This was dangerous work, and Jerry's health problems years later have been officially attributed to his handling of that toxic material during those years. Upon his return to the States, Jerry was working in the shoe business, selling at high-end establishments. Diane, meanwhile, was living in an apartment at Davis and Knox, third floor, with her family. And just a few feet away lived another family, another young family, Reading and Sheila Dalal. Both families had small children. Meanwhile, as it turns out, Reading's younger sister had just arrived from Israel. And on the date of the 17th of November, 1970, her first stop was her brother's apartment. It was a fortuitous first stop for this young woman. She went to that third floor, and in the hallway she sees a man. And she took note of this man. And when she entered Reading and Sheila's apartment, she said the man in the hallway seemed nice, like a good man, but it was curious because he has these beautiful blue eyes and he's completely bald. Well, Ronya Dalal would get accustomed to those beautiful eyes and that bald head, for they went out to a movie in Chicago, and they were engaged, and in September 1971, they married. Ronya learned very early on something important about Jerry, not merely his wonderful physical attributes, but that he was an honest man, a reliable and trustworthy man, and this meant the world to Ronya. The couple first lived in a small apartment on Howard Street, and Jerry was now studying towards a bachelor's degree in psychology. And he would say later that he chose psychology, interestingly, not necessarily for a career path, but to learn more about himself, which I find to be an intriguing, but a little bit of honest self-awareness as to what his motivation was to study psychology. He graduated on a special day. It was a day that they brought Yossi or Joe home from the hospital. The family eventually moved to Skokie, where Jerry and Ronya raised Joe and 8 years younger Naomi. In 1978, Jerry began working for the CTA as a bus driver. He worked hard, including a late shift, and Ronya was working hard too, but they were both home on Mondays and Fridays. For Jerry, it was a job, but it was really more than a job. A secure job for sure, and that was important. But there was much he appreciated about it. He once told me, in one of the times that we visited together, that he was proud to have been a bus driver. And although so soft-spoken as we know that he was very well liked by his regular passengers, by fellow drivers, and so forth. He also, because he was a bus driver, became accustomed to and appreciative of the need for promptness. And that explains, as Naomi said, the clocks that he kept in every room in their house. He also kept, interestingly, you mentioned a telephone in every room in the house, although I don't imagine he was very chatty on the phone. But he also had a television throughout the house, and yes, he was a very eager TV watcher. He watched a lot of sports and the news. He watched, and then apparently he believed he might rewatch these programs, for he was an extremely avid recorder of TV programs. The tapes piled up. I saw them. He was also an early adopter of TiVo. How much of those he actually rewatched, I don't know, but he was definitely a recorder of them. He would spend hours on that lazy boy watching TV. But then, if somebody would say something about dinner, he'd pop up all of a sudden, and he was ready to go out to dinner in like 30 seconds, as you said, Naomi. He definitely enjoyed his special restaurants. Just like in his youth, with his sister and parents, he'd enjoy the hot dogs at Big Herm's. He loved Obviously, in more recent decades, Maggiano's and the Chinese restaurant classic, The Palace, which Jerry remained loyal to even when his friend, the owner and chef, sold it. Didn't matter. He still continued to go there. He loved his spaghetti and meatballs and, of course, ice cream. Back in the day, he'd bring Breyers home for the family, for himself. More recently, more special stuff, I guess. No offense to Breyers. Spinoni ice cream and Ben & Jerry's pistachio ice cream. He also cultivated a special taste for a Bombay Sapphire Martini, dry with cheese olives. Food was on his mind, even when you might not expect it. Jerry would, and one time he would spend days. There was a visit with Naomi and Travis, perhaps Alana too, not saying much at all during the whole visit. And then suddenly towards the end of the visit, he just kind of randomly out of nowhere challenged his son-in-law Travis, "Why do you like Dunkin' Donuts so much?" Just came out of nowhere. He was indeed proud, both he and Ronya were proud, as Joe and Naomi expanded the family to include, of course, Kayla, Gigi, Mazzy, and Rasley, Travis, Alana, and of course, Kokoboo, the doggy. Jerry loved dogs and decades ago enjoyed having Cookie around the house. In 2007, father and daughter, Jerry and Naomi, were planning a road trip together. Naomi was embarking on her life out west. It was to be quality time for Jerry and Naomi, a self-professed daddy's girl. And it was really a nice parallel, actually, as well, because Naomi, you mentioned that you had accompanied your father on his final bus route, his final bus trip as a bus driver for CTA, and now he would be accompanying you on the beginning of a new stage in your life. Interesting. Shortly before they were to leave on this great journey, Jerry became ill. He learned that he was ill, and he couldn't make the trip. The years since have brought ups and downs for Jerry in terms of his health condition. He received a major machaya, like a life-giving event, when he underwent a successful stem cell transplant, and the family is forever indebted to Lisa from New York, the donor. And others throughout the years have provided extraordinary assistance, including niece Efrat, nephew Eitan, and many others as well. But I don't think any of us would disagree that there was never a spouse and partner more devoted than Ronya was to her Jerry. Ronya was his fierce ally. She was not just there always with him, which she was, but she was truly a dogged, unrelenting advocate for him, for his health care. And Ronya, the love and devotion that you showed to your husband of 52 years was really beautiful and inspiring. You did everything that you possibly could do, and everything that could and should be done. You did it in very challenging situations, and we honor that. And it really illustrated, it was a manifestation of the love that you had for him and the love that you shared. It is no wonder that the two of you, Jerry and Ronya Gross, looked so happy at the 50th anniversary gathering a couple of years ago. You, in your creative way, Ronya, and you have a creative way, Ronya, sent thank you notes with a sticker. I have it here, with nutritional facts. And the sticker reads, nutritional facts, serving size, one happy couple. And the ingredients are the following: love, 100%. Commitment, 100%. Trust, 100%. Respect, 100%. That is, Ronya, 100% inspiring and beautiful. And you included in the thank you note that you sent to me a picture of the three of us, and I cherish this from that day. Yes, friends, Sukkot, supposed to be a time of rejoicing. Our sages taught that we should rejoice at the time of rejoicing, and that we should mourn at the time of mourning. And you mourn now. This is a time of mourning, of course. It's a sad time. But may the many years past, the years that you all had with Jerry, the years of love and companionship and friendship and partnership, be for you a cherished memory and a reason in the future not only to remember with wistfulness and poignancy, but to rejoice for his life and for your having been part of it. May Jerry Gross's memory always be for blessing. Zichrono livracha. Amen. It's now my honor to call forward a friend whom I mentioned earlier, cousin Jeff, to share a few words.
Hello. Well, I'd like to reflect on some of the chapters of Jerry's life that I remember about him. Not only, like I think in the obituary, he said he was gentle, but he was also a very matter of fact. Everything he did was just the way it is. A chapter of his life that I first remember is Jerry taking me to the fire station on East Prairie Road to see the fire engines and the Dalmatian and all that. But it was really nice. And when I'd spend the whole night or the weekend there, then the whole family, Uncle Sal, Abby, Diane, Jerry, we'd watch Perry Mason. I just still remember it, and I still see the reruns all the time. And I also remember that he liked to play baseball. And I could remember when he came in, he'd have this old-time 60s glove. That's all I remember about it. But if you remember the way the gloves looked. But another chapter that the rabbi alluded to was that he was at the U of I for a while. But he reminded me later, much later, that he was friends with Jesse Jackson, so I thought that was kind of cool at the time. And he told me some stories about it, but it's not worth it now. And then I went to another segment in life where he enlisted into the Air Force. And he was assigned to Minot, North Dakota. And the reason why I say a matter of fact, he had an old green Beetle Volkswagen with no heat. And he was in Minot, North Dakota, and he would say, well, it's minus 20 degrees, what can I do? But then he got out of there, but was transferred to Biloxi, Mississippi, where his Volkswagen didn't have air conditioning, and it was 100 degrees and 100% humidity. But everything was just a matter of fact. That's just the way it is. And then he did get transferred to Thailand, and he encountered some hard times there. But in spite of his problems, and again, what you alluded to, he studied psychology at the University of Illinois. But this was the University of Illinois Navy Pier, which not a whole lot of people know, but that's where he studied and got his degree. Shortly after his return to Chicago, like permanently, Jerry and I joined the BBYA, which some of you may know means B'nai B'rith Young Adults. So we became good friends. And we would go and we'd play softball. There was like a little softball get-together. And I know Diane's looking, what? Yeah, there was a time. And we also went to some socials because it was part of the BBYA. And what I remember the most is him and I were on the same bowling team together at Howard Bowl with the BBYA, and we were treasury and secretary. So we were doing a lot of things together. And I guess the BBYA has some kind of influence on him because he married a girl from Israel. And I do remember the wedding because, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, I had to hold up the kupa or something, kupa, the whole time during the ceremony. And I do remember him breaking the glass. Because it's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. Another chapter was him being a CTA bus driver. And I always enjoyed the CTA, so I thought it was really neat that he was a bus driver. But and like he said, he was very proud of his job, and he didn't know that they had competition. They had rodeos, they called it. He would go to these parking lots somewhere, and they'd compete to see how good a driver he was against other drivers. And he always said he always did really well. I don't know if he came home with the trophy, but he always told me personally they always did really well. So and for me that was pretty exciting because I loved the CTA. And what he would do every year he would give me the CTA photo calendar, which I still have, from all the years that he remembered to get it over at the office or something. And then there was another earlier chapter in his life that I'd like you to read, because that's what I have to do. And this is, "Hi, Jerry. I bet you're surprised to get this letter. I was surprised when I got this cute Christmas card from you. Your mommy and daddy should be proud of you, such a thoughtful son, and what a nice handwriting you have at your age, just like your mommy's. I am sorry I missed the Christmas party with you and Grandma Baker." And another letter, "I find myself using the word 'really' to an excess. I guess no doubt to whom Jerry takes after. I am inclined to be a bit proud of him. Jerry certainly has grown," this is another segment, "Jerry has certainly grown up. Tell that I knew he had a very nice electric train. But a boat would interest him more. I met Mel," which is my uncle, Uncle Mel. "He really went for the picture of Jerry with the shiner in his eye. He apparently got hit in the eye. He had a big black eye, and there was a picture of him with a big black eye. And he always liked your son." This was a letter to Aunt Evie. "Your account of Jerry's reaction to my letters is kind of tear-jerking. He made me proud that I was a soldier. I imagine saluting to a PFC. Tell him I'm returning his salute, and an honor that I would reserve for colonels on up. Jerry won't be my best nephew, at least I want to be able, even though I want to be able to say it. Jerry and Barry, quite a combination." Those are segment of letters that Uncle Al personally wrote to Jerry and Aunt Evie while Uncle Al was in Europe during World War II. And I probably have about 40 letters that corresponded to Aunt Evie. I do have one that's actually personally written to Jerry. I have a copy. I'll send it off to Naomi and whoever. But he was in the World War II for about 3 years. But in 1945, I have most of his letters. And it was just the fact that he really was proud of Jerry. And eventually Diane, Barry, Ron, and all the others. But he always singled out Jerry. I think he had a chance to meet him before he went to the service, so it was kind of his favorite. And one other thing is really, I like to reflect, let me just get this right. I wish there was more time to reminisce. The last time I talked to Jerry was in the hospital, and he was pretty despondent for the people who had seen him there. But I mentioned Walker Brothers, going to Walker Brothers with Aunt Evie, Uncle Sal, and since we didn't drive all the time, they had to drive us in this big blue Buick, as I remember. And Jerry just kind of lit up then, and he did remember that, which was really, I felt good about that. I'm sure Jerry felt good that he was able to talk things like that. And I just kind of wish I had a chance a little more to reminisce with Jerry, because when I saw that, I thought maybe I'd have another chance to do that. I did see him a few more times, but it was kind of difficult. And that's how I remember Jerry, and that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing those beautiful correspondences and more memories. Pleased to call forward now Naomi and Travis.
All right, my name is Travis Higgins, and I'm Jerry's son-in-law, and I'm his favorite son-in-law for sure, but truth be told, I'm his only son-in-law. But I just wanted to say a few words to him and about him. A man I truly loved, and I'm very much going to miss. Jerry, I remember the day I asked you to marry, if I could marry your beautiful daughter. And you didn't hesitate at all. And you said yes, emphatically. And when you walked her down the aisle for our wedding, and you looked at me and you said, "Take her," I really appreciated that. And I know it must have been so hard to let your daughter go, but I so appreciate the things we talked about during that. I remember how you always would keep to yourself. You listen more than you talk, which we all in this room know that's a sign of a true gentleman. A gentleman you are, Jerry. I know you had your opinions about politics and sports, but you kept alive that close to the vest. And you listened to what people said. I remember one day asking you about the Sox. You looked at me and I said, "Hey, Jerry, how are the Sox doing?" You said, "Oh, you know how they're doing." You were right, I did. I just wanted to chit-chat. And I remember you asking about, a few years ago, you asked me why I was so obsessed with Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And Jerry, it's because it's the best coffee out there. You always had a way of being really chatty on our way out the door. Like the time a couple years ago when we were leaving for the airport and you told me, "Hey, Travis, do you want to know what the best restaurant is in Chicago?" And I said, "Yes, Jerry," and I would have wanted to know that 10 years ago. And the last time I saw you last week, you didn't have much to say. But on my way to the airport, you opened your eyes and said, "Hello, Travis." To my favorite father-in-law, I'll take it from here, Jerry. I continue with my promise to take care of your daughter, and I can extend that now to your granddaughter, my daughter, Alana, who's named after you, your middle name, Alan. I'll continue, and I promise, to take care of my family. And of course, to my favorite mother-in-law, I will always promise you I will always look out for her. Bye for now, Jerry. Until we meet again, bye for now.
Did you put this here?
I did not. I did not. I did have my eyes on it.
But I think it's very appropriate, and maybe it'll help me get through this speech. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you all for coming. I don't feel like I need to say goodbye to my dad because I was blessed to be there when he passed away. And I feel like it's my duty to let everybody here that loved him so much to know that he was not alone when he passed. And I was there holding his hand. My mom was there holding his other hand. His sister Diane was there, and Efrat was there too. And he passed in peace. He was finally peaceful. He was finally done fighting. And it was a beautiful way to die. And I am just so blessed that I was there and that everybody else was there. He fought for 15 years. And you ask him every time, "How are you?" And every single time he'd say, "I'm fine." And we will just believe that he was fine. The last time he spoke to me with more than 1 or 2 word answers was in May. We were out here and he was in the hospital. And that was the time that Jeff was here and spoke to him. And that was around the same time that it was the last time we heard more than hello or hi or all the other words he would say. And he had to go through a procedure. And it was a very hard time. It was a procedure that kept him alive until Tuesday. And it was a decision that he was still capable of making himself. And we left for the day, and he had to make the decision the next day. And I came in, and he sat up, and he looked up, and he opened his eyes. And for those of you that he was not able to open his eyes very easily, and he opened his eyes, and he looked at me and said, "I want to live forever. Let's do the procedure." And that's really the last thing I heard him say, more than just hello or hi. And I'm so happy. And I've said this the last couple months, that if that's the last conversation I had with him, then I am so happy that that is the last thing I heard him say. My mom is so strong, and she's been going there every day, and she's his advocate. And those doctors didn't stand a chance with her. And everybody in this room knows how special she is. I want to thank the Jewish community, because I am just blown away with how amazing the community has been to my family, to me, to everybody, for many, many years, and especially in the last couple of months. I know, I think, Rabbi, you spoke about the talit. Somebody spoke about his talit. Jeff, you spoke about the talit. And it was the chuppah that he got married under. And I want to let you know that he has that talit on right now. And that was from your father, right? From my mom's father. So that talit was what my mom and my dad got married under. And Jeff, you were holding that talit. And I'm not sure, I don't know if anybody else here was. I don't think so. And he is wearing that right now. And there's also a note from Alana with him. And I want to thank Travis and Alana, because the last couple months have been really hard, and they've been so supportive. And Alana wants to thank Coco Boo. And I just want to thank them, because I've been coming out here a lot, and they've been very supportive with every trip that I've come, and I just feel like I should close this up, and I want everybody in this room to know that he fought for so long and he died so peacefully, and that's it. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naomi and Travis. Beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you so much. Leidahi Reshit, V'tirat Tachlit, Achaim Kamasahem, Talichat Tzmicha, Mishalav L'Shalav. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going and a growing from stage to stage. And now, sadly, the life journey of Jerry Gross has reached its conclusion. Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehishim Adonai mevarach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed be the name of the eternal God. And so, O God, into your hand we entrust the spirit of Jerry Gross, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain all of us, O God, that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead for us, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, will be with us and are with us as a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our lives and our hope in eternity. We now rise for the El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. Cantor Gail will first chant it, and then I will read it in English.
שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות קדושים, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים את נשמת יהודה אברהם בן שלמה וחווה שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו. אנא הוא הבעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, ותצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו. וינוח בשלום, וינוח ושלום. על משכבו. ונאמר אמן.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the holy and the pure who shine like the glow of your heavens to Jerry Gross, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of life everlasting. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and we say, Amen. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are humbled and honored to have the Military Honor Guard from the United States Air Force. At this time, I ask you to please rise for the playing of the taps. Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at West Lawn Cemetery located at 7801 West Montrose in Norridge. The family will be receiving at the Gross residence at 4735 Enfield Avenue here in Skokie. It's across the street. They'll be together today from following the interment till 8 p.m., Friday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Memorial contributions to their synagogue, Ezra Habonim, the Niles Township Jewish congregation would be appreciated. That information is on the service folder. And for those of you who are joining us via live stream, all that information can be found on the funeral home's website. For those of you who will be driving in the procession to the cemetery, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. Please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections, and please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to a cemetery. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone who's been asked to serve as pallbearers to please come forward and stand next to Jerry's casket. And just, if you don't mind, Ronya, anybody who served in the United States, any armed forces or Israeli armed forces, you can also be an honorary pallbearer. I think Jerry would like that. Please rise as we escort his casket from the chapel, then you may return to your cars.